So today we're going to be working on domain and range part 1. Now you already know what domain and range is in the very basic sense, but now we're going to introduce this idea of continuous, which we'll get to in a second. Make sure you actually have this paper, so you're not just doing this on your own piece of paper. Make sure you actually grab the handout that it is on. Okay? So, what do we already know about domain and range? Well, we should already know that domain are the x's, right? So domain, I'll go right here, and I'll write that domain are the x's and range are the y's, right? So previously I'd give you a table and I'd say list the domain or list the range. And you would do domain like this. And you'd put your little brace there. And we'd have to write these from least to greatest. So that's 5, 7, and 12. And then we'd write range. And we'd have to write these from least to greatest. So that would be 0, 5, 10. So they go from there. So we've done that before, and the key thing, and this is going to come into play again today, is least to greatest. Least to greatest. Okay? So what we've been doing is something called discrete, which I'll explain in a second. Okay? We've been doing discrete domain and range. And discrete is points. If you're given certain points on a table or certain points on a graph, that's discrete. So don't draw this, but previously I've given you something like this. And there would be dots, and you would have to list out the points, and then the x values would be domain and the y values would be range. That's discrete, just points. Okay? Now continuous, that's what we're going to be dealing with today. Continuous is an actual line. Okay? And really what continuous means is that decimals make sense. Let me give you a real world example of that is adopting puppies is discrete, okay? You adopt 1 puppy, or 3 puppies, or 10 puppies, but you're not adopting 3.12579 puppies, okay? Continuous decimals do make sense, like money, okay? Or time, or temperature, or things like that, where decimals actually do make sense. And this is what we're going to be dealing with today, continuous, okay? So how do I write domain and range for continuous graphs? So let me back up here for a second. We have these graphs here. Okay, a bunch of different ones here. Now, if you look at the line, you might say, oh, well, there's a point here and a point up here. But actually, everywhere on this blue line is full of points. Every single decimal, every single everything on that blue line is a point that is on that graph. Okay? So, we're still going to write this from least to greatest, but it's going to look a little different. To greatest. So let's deal with domain first, and then we'll deal with range over here. So, domain is the x, right? Well, if I look at the x-axis, the x-axis goes from left to right. And the least values, the lower values are to the left, and the upper values are to the right. Okay? So this is left to right. And we're going to write it in a very special way, and I'll show you in a second. Okay? Now, range, we already know, is the y-axis. But the y-axis doesn't go from left to right, it goes from bottom to top. And if it's least to greatest, the lower numbers are on the bottom, and the higher numbers are on top. So this is, you can think bottom to top, or I like to write low to high. What's the lowest, what's the highest? However you want to write it. Okay? So domain is from left to right, and then range is from the lowest to the highest, or bottom to top, whichever one makes more sense to you. Okay? We're going to write this a little weirdly, just kind of stay with me for a second, and we'll talk about it. So let me erase what's already here. So we're going to deal with domain first. Okay? So, and I'm going to be writing in orange. Can you see orange? Yeah. Okay. So, for domain, we need to do the furthest left. Okay? The furthest left. So I'm going to go from left to right here. And look, nothing, 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 and boom, there's something right here. And I'm going to draw a line all the way down. The furthest left this graph goes is right here. Okay, so I'm going to count that. That's -1, -2, -3. Because at -4, there's nothing. -5, there's nothing. But at -3, we actually get to a point here. So I'm going to put -3. Leave some space, okay? Then I keep going. Now, what's the furthest right point? Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. The furthest right point is right here. It doesn't go any further right than this. And so that's at positive 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll leave some space in the middle, and that's at positive 4. Okay, so let me just explain. This is the furthest left it goes. This is the furthest right it goes. And then anything in the middle is also an answer, because it's all the way in the middle. So here's how we write this. You're going to put x in the middle, because it's domain. Okay? And here's what I'm going to tell you. Your inequality signs are always going to go this way. And what that means, just give me a second, this is called a compound inequality, and what it means is any number between -3 and +4 is an answer. Okay? Anything between -3 and +4 is an answer. And you've kind of seen basic compound inequalities before. So, now, just real quickly, let's go to that -3. Actually, let's go up here and write some notes real fast here. It's always going to be like this, or it could have a y on it, unless it's an open circle. Open circle. Because remember, when you're graphing inequalities, an open circle is where there's no line underneath it. Okay? So just look here. Is there an open circle here? Yes, so there's no line. Is there an open circle here? Yes, so there's no line. And this right here is my domain. Anything in between -3 to 4. That's it. Okay? So let's look at the range. I'll erase all that. So I'm going to write range. Range, if we look at our notes, is from low to high. The lowest point to the highest point. So if I go here, there's nothing. Let me get back to my orange. There's nothing, 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 and then boom. Right here. That's the lowest point. And then I have lines everywhere until right here. And they're both the same height. So this is, right here is the highest point. Okay? And you can't really tell what I'm doing with my hands right now because I'm doing this, but basically I use like my pencil. I wish you could see what I'm doing. And then I just kind of draw up, and that's where it is right there. Okay? So what's the lowest value here is right here. And on the axis, on the y-axis, that's 0. So 0. And then the highest value, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the highest this graph gets because there's nothing up here. So the highest it gets is, oh, I put a 6. Count that again, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. Your signs always go this way, and since it's range, we put a y in the middle. And then what that means is it starts at 0 and it ends at 5. But let's look at what kind of signs we're going to have. So right here, is there an open circle? No, not an open circle at all. So there's a line. And then up here at 5, is there an open circle? Yes, so I leave it alone. So my domain is any number between 3 and 4. So 3 and 4. And my range is any number between 0 and 5. Now for some of y'all, that's super confusing. However, if it makes it easier, what some kids do is they'll box it. So like, this is the lowest it goes. This is the furthest right it goes. Then it goes over here. And then it comes down. They make like a little box. And then basically, your domain is from here to here. So that's -3, -3 to 1, 2, 3, 4, +4, -3 to +4. And then your range is from whatever the lowest is, so that's 0, to the highest, which is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing we got. So you can draw a box, boxing it all in, or you can just do it the way we did it. Okay, we spent a lot of time on that one. We're going to go a little faster on the other ones. So here, domain is from left to right. So look, there's nothing, 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 and then right here there's something. And make sure you go to the x-axis right here. So I'm going to count. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. -6. And if you want to, you can go ahead and put this symbol. Because yet again, your inequality signs are always going to go that way. And then the middle number is, or letter is x because it's domain. And then there's stuff, 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 stuff. The furthest right point is right here. I'm going to go down. Let's give me that. So I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to +6. Okay? -6 to +6. And then just look real quick at your stuff. At -6, is that an open circle? Nope. So it has a line underneath it. And then at +6, is that an open circle? No. So it has a line underneath it. And all that means is it goes from -6 to +6. That's all it means. Okay? Range is lowest to highest. So the lowest, again, on this one is right here. This is my lowest, so I can look right here. My lowest is at 0. Always this way with a y in the middle for range. And then my highest point is right here. So I go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this time. So my highest point is 6. Now let's check the signs there. So I'll erase that real quick. So, here at the lowest point, is there an open circle? Nope. So there's a line underneath it. Here up here, is there an open circle? No. So there's a line underneath it. So you can do it that way. Another way you can do it again is you can draw your box. So it's like you box the whole thing in. Whatever box fits it. Right? And then just it goes from -6 to +6 on this axis, and then on this axis it starts at 0 and goes to 6. So you can do it that way. Alright, last two. Alright, so this one doesn't have any dots or anything on it, but that's fine. It's a circle. This is not a function, remember, because it fails that vertical line test. But we're talking about domain and range so far. So, let's get rid of that line. So domain is furthest left to furthest right. So this time I'll just box it and see if we know how to do that. So I'm just going to draw a box around this shape that'll fit everything, because you can do that sometimes. Good. That's a little box that goes around the whole shape, right? So what's the furthest left it goes is right here on the x-axis, so I'll count that as -1, -2, -3, -4. So -4, always this way with an x because it's domain, and the furthest right it goes is right here at +1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? There's no open circles anywhere, so there are lines underneath it. Okay? Range is lowest to highest. We'll go to the y-axis here. The lowest is right here at -1, 2, 3, 4. So -4 this way, but now with a y in the middle. And the highest is right here, so that's at +1, 2, 3, 4. Yet again, there's no open circles, so there's lines underneath it. Now, what kids will say is, well, yeah, there's no open circles, but there's no closed circles either. I know, you're absolutely correct, there's not. However, no matter what, it has a line underneath it, unless you see an open circle. If you see an open circle, then you can go on. So this last one here is a real-world situation. So you'll see these on like star tests or anything like that. This is called a quadratic, a parabola that we'll get to later. But same thing, let's do domain. What's the furthest left this goes is right here at 0, right? And the furthest right it goes is right here at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it starts at 0 and it ends at 5. So 0, this symbol, x for domain, same symbol, and then 5, right? And there are no open circles, so there's just lines underneath them. Okay? Now the range is on the y-axis, right? So the lowest this graph obviously is at 0, right? Symbol, y, symbol. And the highest this graph goes is right here. And I go to the y-axis, and that's at 100. So 100. And there's no open circles anywhere, so I just draw my lines underneath it. If that's weird for you, you can draw the box. So like here's, if I box the whole thing in, if I draw a line there, and that box shows me it goes from 0 to 6 on the x-axis, or 5, I'm sorry, 0 to 5 on the x-axis, and 0 to 100 on the y-axis. Alright, so that's part 1 of this, where there's a clear start and stopping point. The symbols always go in that direction. Lowest on the left, highest on the right. Go from there. Ask me questions if you have any. If not, go to your assignment.